So one thing I want to know from Canadians, and I just want to ask a question just to get kind of a broad spectrum of what people really actually think about Pierre Poilievre. I've been making quite a few videos of him. I get a lot of comments, which I do appreciate, but I do want to know how many people are just voting for him because he's the quote unquote lesser of two evils, which I think is a fair point. Or are you voting for him because you actually like him and think that he's going to kind of reshape Canadian politics as we know it? Because as we know, even before Trudeau, it hasn't been great. Right? There's a reason someone like Trudeau gets in office. And yes, there's a lot of woke liberal Canadians, but that wasn't the only reason. You can kind of see things happening, especially at near the beginning of the year of 2009, when Stephen Harper, just like Barack Obama in the United States, decided to bail out the bankers during or after the financial crisis, the ones who frauded us big time, and then took our taxpayer money and then gave it back to the very banks that screwed us. Right? So Stephen Harper was no saint. He was also extremely corrupt. Is Pierre Poilievre like that, or is he truly different? Personally speaking, I have a very, very, very hard time believing that any career politician is really going to come in and fix things. It seems like they're all cut from the same cloth. They speak in the same kind of ways. They use different words, different ideas, depending on which party you're from. But, you know, they all end up seeming to screw us over. They all seem to lie and not do what they said. They all seem to pander to us just to get their vote. And as soon as they get in, it's like, yeah, never mind. Is that what Pierre's going to do? Or is he truly going to come in here and make some change? I refuse to completely trust him until we see it. That being said, he's going to get my vote. I mean, I couldn't imagine what he would have to do to make me not vote for him. And if it's not him, then I'm just going to stay home and not vote, which is what I do usually because, like I said, there's only ever career politicians who don't even say the right things half the time. But Pierre, he's saying everything right. And the Liberals, I mean, they're getting so pissed off in Parliament during question period. It's so funny to watch. I love seeing it. But at the same time, when the Conservatives win a majority and they're getting hammered during question period by the NDP, who's likely to be the official opposition, are they going to be able to have good answers and say, hey, look what we're changing? Look what we're doing? Because if the Conservatives screw up, if Pierre Poilievre really is a fraud, if this whole persona with the skinny t-shirt and losing the glasses and trying to look cool, if that's just a fraud, if he's just an imposter, if he's just going to screw us over like everyone else did, if he's going to start pushing certain, say, lockdowns or medications, then he's just like all the rest of them. Just a Canadian conservative version of it. If that happens, you could see in the 2029 election, the NDP is winning. So if Pierre Poilievre really cares about Canada, and he really wants to do what he says to make sure that we live better and we don't have to pay so much in taxes, and he's going to build more homes, and he's going to make sure that there's affordable food prices, and he's going to keep an eye on keeping the inflation rate controlled so that it's as little as possible. And he's going to make sure that Canadians are as prosperous as they can be and have as many good opportunities as they can, which is what should be happening in this country. Then he has a chance to be Prime Minister for a very long time. But if he does not do that, you will see the NDP government come in. Socialists at their finest. We do not want that. Some people do. And, like I said, there are going to be some Liberals who float over to the NDP party because the Liberals are just so far gone. Liberals need another place to vote. They're going to go to the NDP. But a lot of Liberals are also going to go over to the Conservatives because Canadians are much more willing to go from red to blue. Right? In the States, there's way more just people who are just conservative or Republican no matter what, and liberal/Democrat no matter what. They don't even care who the candidate is. I have a feeling, as it seems, that Canadians care a lot more about who the candidate actually is rather than who the party is. And I think that's one way that we actually vote way better than the States. But that being said, if we choose Pierre, which I believe we will, and he screws this up, 2029, 2030 is going to be a very bad time to be Canadian. Right? Pierre's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders right now, and for the next, depending on when we have an election, but for the next 4 to 6 years. Because if Pierre wins a majority, they're not going to be able to hold a vote of non-confidence because they'll never get enough votes to do it. So it's very likely that when Pierre Poilievre wins, it's going to be a majority, and then he'll have the majority for 4 years, unless he decides to call an election, which I don't believe he'll do. So, when you look at what he's saying and you look at how he's behaving, it seems like a very good idea. A lot of people are very excited to hear him speak, and they finally have some hope about what the future holds for Canada. But man, if he screws up, we are all in big trouble.